Good day, Rolf Oldring. In this e-learning program, we're going to look at the Managerial Skill Framework, which is at the core of the Right Talents Next Level Manager program. That program is designed to help you, as an existing manager or as an inspiring manager of others, to acquire the soft skills that you need to be an effective manager in the 21st century. Survey after survey, both inside organizations and on exits, indicate that one of the main reasons that people leave positions, jobs, is because they experience their manager to be a, in quotes, bad boss, close quotes. You can take the steps to avoid being put in this position. You can acquire the skills that you need to be an effective manager, managing in the complex world of the 21st century, where you manage diverse people, and you often have to manage individuals who are working virtually as much as they're working in an office. As usual, this framework is intended to ensure that you as an individual or you as an organizational leader making investments in training get the maximum return on investment possible. We're going to look at the basis, the underlying reasons why a managerial skill framework is so necessary in order to get effective return from investment in managerial skill training. We'll look at how you can take steps to increase your capability, your level of skill in each of the areas, the competency areas covered in the skill framework. But let's start looking at why this framework is so needed. And it starts with the fact that the fundamental reality of life in organizations is that the level of stress and uncertainty increase as you move up the organizational hierarchy. And part of the reason is that the time span, the period into the future that you must take into account when making the decisions increases, becomes longer as you move up. As a result, for over 5 decades now, based on both academic work and practical insight, we know that technical skills and know-how account for less than 20% of an effective manager's performance on the job. That in fact, a manager manages people, and therefore people's soft skills are extremely important to that manager's ability to contribute. And the ability of that manager to move through the organization, to navigate and get things done and build alliances is also critical to a manager's contribution on the job. And we know that managers and executives must use their people and organizational navigation skills under everyday conditions of tension and stress that exceed the normal levels of stress experienced by the folks who do the day-to-day work of the organization. The requirements of leadership, the competencies required to lead, change given the scope of a person's responsibility in an organization. An individual starts working as a one-on-one peer, may progress to managing a group or a team, and from there go on to managing a group of teams, and from there progress to managing a part of or whole organization, layers of groups or teams. Each of these levels has a different level of skill requirement, and this is seldom explicitly recognized in the leadership development programs which are offered to individuals and organizations, and is in fact one of the underlying reasons why so many of these training programs are ineffective at increasing managerial capability on the job. When we look at organizational navigation skills, moving through the organization, building alliances, persuading people, we know that these skills are best learned through a combination of experience and, just as importantly, through mentoring and coaching, the way in which a person's direct manager shows them, guides them, coaches them in how to move through the organization. People skills can be learned, providing that a person has values that really are people-oriented, value the contribution of others, treat other people with respect, value getting in the shoes of, understanding the other person's perspective on issues. Individuals either have these skills or can develop them. And in fact, one of the major keys to getting return from managerial skill training is ensuring that the individuals who you invest in as an organizational leader have an appropriate set of values. The skill also involves capability. And these capabilities can be developed for individuals through participation in effective training programs that focus on creating smart habits, in the moment abilities to respond to people's interactions in the workplace. We've talked about the 80-20 model of soft skill utilization and recognize that less than 20% of the levels of skills are required to deal with more than 80% of the workplace situations. However, managers and executives need a level of skill, of people skills, which exceed that needed by a person working as a one-on-one peer. And the shaded area shows that in order to develop these advanced level of people skills, individuals need a guiding framework that shapes their progressive skill acquisition. And we know that self-awareness is at the core of that framework, that feedback in training programs and feedback on the job constantly increases an individual's self-awareness. The connection, the relationship, the overlap between how a person sees his or herself and the way other people see that individual. We also know that managerial competencies build on one another, that the skill model is layered, and we depict that in the framework to the left-hand side by showing these skills in a series of concentric circles, each of which builds on the previous one. Skills in the outer circle use elements of the skills in the inner circles. And therefore, the skill acquisition path for an individual is not strictly linear, but it's paying attention to the sequence shown in the right-hand side does increase the effectiveness of both training and individual competency development. To summarize, leadership depends on managerial ability. And in order to be an effective manager, you have to have the appropriate values around people first and foremost, organizations, and competition, both internal to the organization and between organizations. We also know that, but managerial effectiveness is largely tied to having better than average emotional intelligence, or EQ, which consists of self-awareness and knowledge of how to implement and do the skills in the managerial skill framework. And we also know that different levels of managerial skill are appropriate to different sizes of groups. As you think about increasing your managerial competency or the managerial competency of the people in your workforce, think about it as if it takes two kinds of learning. Acquiring knowledge of facts and ideas about what it is to be an effective manager, and know-how, smart behavioral habits which allow you to respond in the moment to other people's behavior in effective ways. And know that can largely be acquired through e-learning and reading. And these are just some of the resources which are available on the internet for people interested in developing that kind of increased managerial competency, or organizations interested in making these programs available to the members of their workforce who are becoming managers. Know how to, by and large, requires face-to-face training programs, which often build on the previous know that learning. And those training programs, the effective ones, are characterized by role plays, simulations, video-based feedback, in-the-moment coaching by expert training, and an approach to these skills which breaks them into micro skills which are learned individually and then integrated into smart habits through practice, simulation, and feedback. Facilitation at the basic level can be acquired in this way, but advanced facilitation skills, the skills needed to address inside group conflict and high levels of interpersonal tension, are best acquired through in-depth training, coaching, and mentoring. And so there you have it, a way of addressing the need to develop managerial competency in order to either further your own career or to increase the productivity and the capability of the managers in your organization to manage their staff and to engage them in ways which lead to increased levels of productivity. Thank you very much for paying attention.